Hello, church. It's great to be able to talk to you again today. It's Wednesday and the sun is out and it looks like it's going to stay warm for the next few days. So I hope you get an opportunity to get into the garden and enjoy the sun. Over the course of the last week, I've spoken to many of you, and there's been a similar theme that's come up with each conversation, a theme that I see in my own household as well. Many of you talk about being anxious or worried. Some of you talk about you're much more tired than you normally are. Some of you even share that you're a little bit irritable. Okay, perhaps it's just me, but just things seem to spark off and irritate us much more quickly. A lot of you, like me, talk about at times just being quite emotional or perhaps feeling very vulnerable, especially as we start to hear news of how the lockdown might be eased. Well, are we ready for that? Should we be doing it? How we will do social distancing? My home that has become my fortress for 6 weeks has become a safe place. I know it and I understand it, and all of a sudden now I'm feeling anxious. Well, I want to talk to you this morning. If you're feeling that way, a little bit like I have at times, I want to talk to you. And I want to talk to us all as to how we might help and support one another as we're feeling this way. This morning, as I came into the bridge and as I started to pray and think about what I was going to share with you today, I picked up one of our leaflets that had the vision wheel on. Many of you will remember. And it talked about 4 key points: wholehearted adherence to the Bible, personal engagement in evangelism, radical action towards those less fortunate, and a church the unchurched want to attend. And that's almost now a year old. We shared it back in July of last year, but it was coming together about this time last year. And then God just reminded me of our mantra that we have at the moment: care, share, grow. Care for the vulnerable, share the gospel of Jesus, grow spiritually as disciples. And he just showed me how that mantra is seen in our vision wheel of almost a year old. When we think of care, really couldn't be more clear in radical action towards those less fortunate. When we think about share the gospel, or personal engagement in evangelism, seeing a church the unchurched want to come to, that speaks to me of sharing the good news of Jesus. When we look at wholehearted adherence to the Bible, developing strong and deep disciples, well, that's growth. That is growing spiritually as disciples. Care, share, grow was in our vision wheel in a different form almost a year ago. And I want to use care, share, grow to talk about how we can perhaps reach out to those who may be feeling vulnerable and challenged at this time. So care for the vulnerable. How can we help? Well, what I've got to share here is not new. I've been saying it in different ways for a number of weeks. Make yourself available to speak to people. Make yourself available to listen to people. We do that through video calling, through text, through phone. Give people an opportunity to just talk and share. It's not about fixing the issue. Sometimes it's about creating a safe space for some people to say, I'm struggling. That's care for the vulnerable. I have to pray for them. Maybe you've never done that before. Maybe you've been a good listener. But that next step is saying, well, can I pray for you? If you've never done that before, then simply saying that is a huge step. And maybe you will do it later on. Or maybe you may even be brave and say, can I just pray for you now? Keep it simple. Keep it short. And let God guide your prayer. Care for the vulnerable. That's how we can do it to people who are feeling very vulnerable at this time. Share the good news of Jesus. And I actually want to speak to on this one people who are feeling overwhelmed, feeling vulnerable, feeling concerned, feeling emotional. Sharing good news with others will actually have a positive impact on how you are feeling. When you focus on other people and when you're sharing the good news of Jesus, it's like it kicks off those endorphins that just make you feel incredibly well and incredibly good. When you give out, when you actually feel you need people to give to you, I think it has an incredible impact. And we see that actually in Scripture. In the Gospel of John, chapter 4, Jesus passes through Samaria. and he sends his disciples away, as we learn later on, to actually get food. And he has this incredible conversation with the woman at the well. He speaks to her, he listens to her, he ministers to her, and he shares truth with her. She goes off on her way, and the disciples come back. And verse 31 says this: "Meanwhile, the disciples were urging Jesus, 'Rabbi, eat something.' But Jesus replied, 'I have a kind of food you know nothing about.'" "Did someone bring him food while we were gone?" the disciples asked each other. Then Jesus explained, "My food comes from doing the will of God who sent me and from finishing his work." It's almost like that actually Jesus got spiritually fed as he gave out. So maybe you're feeling overwhelmed today, emotional, irritable, worried, vulnerable. Believe it or not, that if you can step over that and actually reach out to others, actually God will feed you spiritually. And what better way to reach out than to share the good news of Jesus? Grow spiritually as disciples. This is to all of us. There are lots of ways we can grow spiritually at this time. There is no need for our Christian walk to suffer. We have free access to the good news, to the Bible, either or ones that we have physically or online. Jesus is never engaged and is always ready to hear your prayer. But you can actually grow spiritually as you reach out to others. Again, not only does it nourish you, you actually grow. James, the book of James, chapter 2, says this: "Don't you remember that your ancestor Abraham was shown to be right with God by his actions when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see, his faith and his actions work together. His actions made his faith complete." It kind of paints this picture as I have my faith in God and I have my relationship in God, but as I actually act it out, as I live it out, as I work it out, it completes my faith. And that's been my experience, that actually as I give out, I actually grow spiritually. And it's a great opportunity at this time to actually look at how we can help others. It shows that we are caring for those in need. It gives us an opportunity to share the gospel. And in doing all of those things, we actually find we grow, we're nourished, we're strengthened as disciples. And actually, if you're struggling at this time, this can be like medicine to your soul as we care, share, and grow.